Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Preserves. On today's video we're going to be building a Bluetooth speaker from scratch. There's a couple of things that I've already done because I am really not great at woodworking, and so I went ahead and did that off camera because it takes quite some time for me to do something even in woodworking to get to a point of where it's even a little bit presentable with, you know, even though I do measurements and stuff right, I guess my cutting skills with the tools that I have aren't quite exact. So without further ado, I'm going to show you the enclosure that I built and go over the parts that you're going to need to accomplish this build. And all of these parts, with the exception of the wood enclosure, if you want to build one that's exactly like mine, then you can find that at a local woodworking store that sells like exotic woods and whatnot. But anyway, let me grab my enclosure, show you what that looks like, and then explain to you what I'm gonna have to do to get the enclosure to a final stage. Okay, so this is my enclosure. I've got space for 2 speakers in the front, and then I've got the sides for passive radiators, and then on the back I've drilled 1 hole for my DC jack, and then 1 hole for the Bluetooth module volume and on-off switch to come out. I started to drill it down here, but I realized that it was not a good area for it, and so I didn't even get all the way through the wood there, so let's just ignore that. And then on the front here, I have a spot for a blue LED status light that I have yet to figure out how to get that working on the board, and I've gone through and tried to do a few things. As you can see, I've got a few screw holes drilled into this to mount the speakers themselves. So and right now I've got the top drying, and then it will this is different color because what happened is when I bought this wood, it was really flat, and then I let it dry in my area and it started to warp a little, curl up a little bit, and so I had to boil the piece and then flatten it out before I could use it for the enclosure itself. So what will happen on this enclosure is I will go through and route all the edges and round them over with just a handheld router, and the same with the inside of each one of these speaker holes and whatnot. And then let me show you the tool that I used. Okay, so I have a whole set of these, and I figured this would be the easiest way to go ahead and get the holes drilled for each one of these. So the passive radiator, I'm using a 3 and what is it, a 5/8, 3 and 5/8, so it will fit this, and then when I route the hole, it will fit all the way flush. And then for the speakers themselves, I used this for the enclosure, which is a 2 and 5/8. So let's get those set aside. And then, so here's my passive radiators. Like I said, there's no magnet or anything. These are just for the base portion of the speaker. It helps with the, and if you're not going to have a port, you should have something like this to help move the air. And then for my speakers, I ordered up from Parts Express. All my parts I got were for Parts Express, with the exception of these, because they didn't have this size available at the time when I ordered. I ended up ordering these off of Amazon. So These are Dayton Audio, little 3-inch speakers. They are full range, and I have 2 of those exact speakers here. And the one thing that I'm kind of disappointed on is those didn't come with their own mounting screws, and so I had to go and order up a whole kit of screws. I ordered up a whole kit of screws. When I do stuff like this, instead of just going and getting the exact amount of screws that I'm going to be using for the project, I go ahead and order up a kit just in case what I have in my head isn't going to work. So what I had in my head at first was these ones that I already had laying around, and these ones are not long enough, and I don't think that they would hold the speaker in and be able to hold it up to the reflex of the bass. So next I ordered up from Parts Express, I ordered up this Bluetooth module, which is a 50 watt by 2 module, and it's dependent on the amount of voltage that you put into this. So this is a 5 through 24 volt board, and say like if you're using 5 volts, it's going to give you a lower wattage output versus if you were using like a 9 volt or something like that. And what I've decided I'm going to go with, because these speakers are 15 watt, I'm not going to go with the full 24 volts. I'm going to go with a 9 volt, which will push these speakers perfect for the amount of wattage that I've got for the speakers versus the amount of voltage I've got coming in. So, and then I've gone ahead and I've cut 4 speaker wires, and then this module here comes with this cable that you can plug into here, and then it's just leads to what you're gonna do. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm going to plug this in to this, and then on the outside of the enclosure I'm going to just have one of these 9 volt DC jacks, and I will solder up the leads to this, and then I'll be able to plug into this. So the only thing that I don't like about this module here is that it is Bluetooth, but there is no way to turn it on except for this turn knob switch. And so that's the only thing that I don't like about it, is you have to physically touch the enclosure to turn it on and off. You can't just turn it on with a remote or something like that. But I mean, it's a cheap build. It's not too expensive. The wood that I used for my enclosure is a Purple Heart, and we're just going to be rubbing it down with some lemon oil and getting those colors to be more pronounced on the wood. And then on the inside of the enclosure, because you do need some kind of muffling material on the inside of the enclosure, and so I was thinking maybe I could line the inside of the enclosure with something like this. Anyway, let me get to showing you how I'm going to put the board together. Okay, so what we're going to do on for our speaker leads is we're going to go ahead and solder up these ends so that way they're ready to go before we connect them to our speaker ins and outs. So you see we've got right plus and minus, left plus and minus right there. So basically we just take our Let me turn you a bit here. Basically, we just take our soldering iron, and we just solder up the tip with quite a bit of solder. Then we just come onto our lead here and just turn it around, make sure we've got ample of solder on there, just like so. There we go. Alright, so we're all good. They're all nice and tight in there now. And so the next step is we've got to wait until our enclosure is dried and finished up. And so we'll start that once we've got that ready to go and finished up. So, and I forgot to mention on when I was putting together the cab, I went to that woodworking store here locally in my town, and the guy recommended to use this. It's a 88 or T88 or whatever. It's good for everything from plastic to metal, so to bond two surfaces, wood, whatever, you can use this epoxy type deal to fasten it together. And he said it's an extremely strong bond. We're going to put that to the test. I would have normally used just my Titebond, because I've used this multiple times, and whatever you clamp together with this glue holds extremely well. So but we're gonna give that T88 compound epoxy a go and see if it works as good as the Titebond that I've always used. Alright, so we got this all routed up now, and I kind of went a little hard on this side. It kind of grabbed it because the depth was there. The roller on the actual router went up underneath and was deeper than the wood. So we've got it all routed out. What we're gonna do next is we're going to actually sand this and get it down to a nice level surface and make sure it's nice before we take and put the lemon oil on it. So let's get that done. See, we have some excess glue and whatnot from the epoxy, and so we're gonna get that all taken care of, and then I'll bring you back. Okay, so this is not perfect at all by any means. You can see we've got, like I said at the beginning of the video, I'm not a great woodworker, and so we've got some gaps in our glue, and I think that's because the board wasn't great, and when I was sanding it with my belt sander, I did a little chip out here. I'm not worried about that. Anyway, I didn't want to go real deep right here because I've got very little material there due to the fact that I had to really thin this wall out for the mount of the Bluetooth module itself, and so I didn't go very deep. there are blemishes in the wood itself, but overall it's a box, and I'm not looking to do a perfect thing. So let me first of all, we're gonna get this and we're gonna wipe all of the sawdust off of here, and just kind of clean the surface, and then I'll get my oil rag out, and I'm not trying to make this perfect, just so you know. I'm just wanting to see how good of a Bluetooth speaker you can make sound quality wise with just some pretty cheap parts. Like I said, I paid $8, I think, a piece on these speakers, and the wood was 26 bucks. The module was $13. So, and then these passive radiators were $4 for the pair on Amazon. So we're well under $50 for the build. So let's just see what I got. My oil rag here, and we'll just go ahead and give a generous amount of oil, and you can see how that's making that color come out in that wood. So we're just gonna rub this all over. Generous amount on the top. Now that we've got the excess wiped off, our box looks pretty delicious, you know, nice and shiny and whatnot. All right, try and get you guys a visual once I got this adheres to the inside there. Alright, so that's what it looks like on the inside there. I've got, I don't know if you can see the back, how I've got that little space cut out for the module. So first things first is tighten it up as tight as we can get it. Perfect. And then this nut on there. that's done, we take our wires to there, and that's gonna look like that, and the back's gonna look like that. And we'll shove her in. We got her on there. She's pretty tight in there. Next, we're gonna set these up on top so we can get these soldered in there. Alright. Alright. That looks pretty good. Shit, yeah. Alright, let's get these, let's get these on. Alright. So, that's what the front looks like. And then the passive radiators that are kind of dirty now. Alright, let's see, let's plug her in.
There was this guy who sold me some pieces of paper one day. He said, son, don't need them all, you'll never be the same. I know I shouldn't die, but I did it anyway. I put them in my mouth and turned and walked away. I shouldn't have eaten so many. And I was tripping, so they have to onion, but I was dipping. My legs are starting to swoon, and I was out so high, just desired I couldn't bear. Yeah, my leg was dripping, couldn't control the drum, my mind was slipping.
That's a flat response, queued out.
Well, I was out so high, just desired I couldn't bear.
Alright, so as you can see, pretty decent little speaker you could build yourself for under 50 bucks, and probably even cheaper if you just use cheaper wood than what I did. Like I said, this wood was 26 bucks for the project, and you could literally probably build this for, I mean, the speakers, the module. So the speakers were 16 bucks for the pair. The module was 13, so that's 30 bucks pretty much. And then the little DC jack, which you don't need, you could just use the wire that's coming off and solder it into a 24 volt laptop converter. And then these were 4 bucks for the set. Passive radiators, and so we're looking out like if you got the wood on hand already, which some people might, but you could just go to Home Depot and get some cheap poplar wood or whatever, you know, like a couple of these slabs, which are 24 by pretty much the, you know, same as what I used. For, I think it was 8 bucks for this one, because I needed something thicker for the back side of this wood to hold the speaker in. So you get those for 16 bucks. So what you got? 52 bucks for a really nice sounding Bluetooth speaker that won't break the bank. I mean, you could go on and get a JBL, and this one sounds just as good as the JBL that I have, and one of those little tube ones. You know, they're about this big. I think they're called the Charge 4. I could actually look it up on my Bluetooth settings, what it's called. Let's see here. Bluetooth settings. So yeah, JBL Charge 4 on that I have. And this sounds just as good, if not better. Probably a little bit more bass response out of this thing. And on top of that, it's, you know, a little bit better looking in my opinion. So, and I didn't even do that great of a job on this, but it sounds pretty freaking decent, really. The only drawback is that you can't just turn it on. You have to physically turn it on, and the 9-volt power supply that I'm using is literally this super old school one spot for guitar pedals that I have. It was the only 9-volt power supply that I had that fit a DC jack that I was using. So with that being said, that's going to be the end of this video, and I hope you enjoyed, you know, quick builds like this. I know I didn't show all the woodworking stuff because frankly I suck at woodworking worse than I suck at anything else, really. I'm not great at it, and so but yeah, it turned out all right. And you can do this project too yourself. I'll leave a link in the description for Parts Express, and you can get all this stuff that I used for the build at Parts Express. And this video isn't sponsored by them, of course, because I suck, and I'm not a big enough YouTuber to get any sponsors or anything, but I like doing little things like this. I can put this out in my garage now and have music out in the garage directly off my phone. So, all right, peace, guys.